Infrastructure Public Safety will come to order. Alyssa, call the roll.
Senators Fitzwater.
Here.
Schnelting. Here. Brown. Gregory. Here. Shore. Here. Washington. Weber. Here.
Quorum being established, we'll go into executive session. I move that we go into executive session. Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We're in executive session. I move that Senate Bill 77 be brought before the committee. Do I have a second? Having a second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is before the committee. This bill was presented last week by one of our committee members, Senator Schnelting, and it modifies provisions relating to carrying firearms on public transit systems. I don't believe we have a sub. Is there any discussion on that bill? Seeing none, let's call the roll. I'm sorry. I have to move that we do pass. Having a second, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
Fitzwater.
Aye.
Schnelting. Aye. Brown. Gregory. Aye. Shore. Aye. Washington. Weber. No.
By your vote of 4-1, you voted do pass Senate Bill 77. I now move that Senate Bill 81 be brought before the committee. I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is before the committee. This bill, along with Senator Weber's Senate Bill 174, were presented last week by Senator Gregory, and the provisions relating to fireworks protections. We do have a committee substitute ending in .02C. It has been distributed to members. This substitute combines Senator Gregory's Senate Bill 81 and Senator Weber's Senate Bill 174. And on page 22 under section 320.147, section 2, the word architectural was changed to construction. That is the meat of the substitute, adding the two numbers and that one technical change. Is there any discussion on the underlying bill or substitute? Senator Weber, go ahead.
Just very quickly, I just wanted to say I was under the weather last week, and I really appreciate your flexibility and the way that you worked with me to let the bill be heard anyway. So I just want to say thank you very much for the way you did that.
Glad to do it. Thank you, Senator. Any other discussion? Seeing none, I move that we adopt the substitute. Do I have a second? Having a second. All those in favor of adopting the substitute say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. You've adopted the substitute. I now move that we vote Senate Committee substitute for Senate Bills 81 and 74 do pass. Having a second. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, Alyssa, call the roll.
Senators Fitzwater.
Aye.
Schnelting. Aye. Brown. Gregory. Aye. Shore. Aye. Washington. Weber.
Aye. By your vote of 5-0, you voted do pass Senate Committee substitute for Senate Bills 81 and 174. I now move that Senate Bill 92 be brought before the committee. Do I have a second? Second. Having a second, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is before the committee. This bill was presented last week by Senator Nurrenbern and creates provisions relating to the jurisdiction of law enforcement officers. Any discussion on this bill? Seeing none, I move that we now vote do pass Senate Bill 92. Do I have a second? Second. It's having a second. Seeing no further discussion, let's call the roll.
Senators Fitzwater.
Aye.
Schnelting. Brown. Gregory. Aye. Washington. Weber.
Aye.
And Senator Schroer left his vote with me as an aye. It's by your vote of 5-0, you voted do pass Senate Bill 92. I now move that we go out of executive session. Do I have a second? Anybody? Second? Having a second. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. We are out of executive session. Thank you for your participation. Now we'll go into the hearing on the bills we have before the body. We'll start with Senator Mosley's Senate Bill 41. And Senator, you can start when you're ready.
Hello, I'm Senator Angela Mosley. Thank you, Chair and Committee, for hearing this bill today. I will be presenting SB41, and this act creates the Christian Taylor Ferguson Medical Alert System to aid in identifying and locating a missing endangered person, defined as a person including a child who is missing under unexplained, involuntary, and suspicious circumstances, and who is believed to be in danger because of a medical condition that requires immediate care, medication, or treatment. The CTF medical alert system shall be set up and maintained in a manner similar to the Amber Alert system. The Department of Public Safety shall develop regions to provide the system and to coordinate local law enforcement agencies and public commercial television and radio broadcasters. The department shall also administer and promulgate rules to implement the provisions of this act. I do have Christian Taylor Ferguson's mother here, who asked for this bill to be filed, and she can talk more on the bill, and I'll answer any questions.
Any questions for the senator? Seeing none. Anybody here to testify in favor of the bill? Go ahead and come on up. Please fill out a witness form if you haven't already. Thank you for our records. And proceed when you're ready.
Greetings. I'm Theda Roxanne Wilson, the mother of missing murdered Christian Ferguson. This is a picture of my son. And a lot of people didn't know that when my son went missing that it really was him because of the circumstances. They remembered him walking and talking and moving like a typical child, even though he had a life-threatening disorder called citrullinemia. So if he could not get his medication within 24 to 48 hours, he could die. And that's the reason why this bill is imperative. A lot of times when people post or share persons that are missing, and even if you see the Amber Alert, which is a very wonderful alert because it helped in my situation to some degree. Situations like that, they really need the attention that they deserve. So like if my son needs his medication within 24 hours, he doesn't have time to go through the typical protocols that law enforcement may go through. If they're in office, if they're not in office, then you have to wait till Monday when the missing person is in the at the highway patrol or at law enforcement so that they can make the flyers and things like that. And you don't have that kind of time to waste when you have a person with a life-threatening condition. Even if a person who had something other than citrullinemia, because that's what my son had. But if, let's say the person was on dialysis and you knew that they were supposed to be at their appointment or certain things would happen in a critical situation if they didn't have whatever they needed to survive. It's just really like a no-brainer bill to me. And sometimes, like even with the Amber Alert, the police have a lot of discretion, you know, to determine whether or not they want to call it an Amber Alert. But with the CTF alerts, you won't have that kind of discretion. Not saying that they're not important, because they are, number one. They're very important. You know, we need law enforcement, and we need them to get this information out, a CTF, a medical alert out in a situation like what happened to my son, because we didn't have time to go to the courts and determine all of these other things and wait on law enforcement to act. We needed them to act immediately. So if a CTF alert was to go out, then it would hit everywhere it needs to hit, even through the phones. I know I get alerts when a person is missing in my area through Verizon, and I think other phone systems can do that as well. But just being a mother and knowing that there are other mothers and fathers and individuals with other people who have life-threatening disorders, I just speak on their behalf, on my son's behalf, on my behalf, because I could go missing and know I don't have a situation. I'm a carrier of citrullinemia, but I don't have it like my child had citrullinemia. So he basically could not break down proteins because he lacked arginine, which is part of a metabolic cycle that the body goes through. So, you know, I just need this bill to pass because, of course, it's important to me. Of course, it's in my son's name, but the people, there's a lot of people that I serve even through my organizational capacity, looking for an angel, that have serious situations. And when I've done different events, even in local, in St. Louis, Missouri, some of the children who have trachs, or some of them in wheelchairs, and it's like if they went missing, their parents were there to speak out on their behalf, you know, when we were just trying to help people to understand why it's important for an alert such as the CTF alert to become a reality.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for the witness? Senator Weber, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, and I just want to say, I'm sure that going through that has been tough, and I really respect that you've not let go of this and that you've honored your son's memory, and I think you're doing right by him, and I just want to thank you for continuing to do this in his memory. So thank you.
Thank you, and I'm glad you're better. I was under the weather last week myself, but you are essential. Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony, and thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Anybody else here to testify in favor of the bill? Anybody here in opposition to the bill? Anybody here for informational purposes only? Seeing none, that'll conclude the hearing. Senator, any closing remarks?
Thank you.
Thank you. That'll be the end of that hearing on Senate Bill 41. We'll now go to Senate Bill 74. Senator Hudson, you're next on our list. You can proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Senator Brad Hudson here representing District 33 to present to you Senate Bill 74. What Senate Bill 74 would do, it would provide teeth to Missouri's firearms preemption law and preempt local and county open carry restrictions. Under current law, no political subdivision can regulate the possession of firearms except to prohibit the use of the open carrying of firearms. This act repeals that exception. Additionally, this act would provide that any political subdivision that violates the provisions of this act shall be subject to a penalty of $50,000 per occurrence. Any person whose rights are violated shall have standing to pursue an action for injunctive relief in the circuit court of the county in which the action allegedly occurred, or in the circuit court of Cole County. Finally, the act requires the court to hold a hearing on the motion for a temporary restraining order and preliminary injunction within 30 days of the service of the petition. This legislation, I believe, is long overdue, but particularly timely due to the recent anti-Second Amendment ordinance passed in Jackson County last November. Local control is a value that I hold dear. However, when local governments begin infringing upon the constitutional rights of their citizens, it is the responsibility of the state to step in and protect the rights of Missourians. The United States Constitution and Missouri law are clear. The Second Amendment rights of Missourians are fundamental and shall not be infringed upon. And I'm happy to take questions.
Questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, anybody here testify in favor of Senate Bill 74? Please make sure you fill out a witness form for our records and proceed when you're ready.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Aaron Dorr on behalf of the members of the Missouri Firearms Coalition. We're in full support of this bill, as you see here before you today. This bill would provide a solution to a problem that's ongoing and causing problems to our members in real time. As you heard, Jackson County has passed an ordinance in direct violation of existing state law that makes it a crime for any person under the age of 21 to possess a handgun outside of their home. The same for ammo, and the same for rifles, unless you're at a gun range or with a member of law enforcement. It's branded an assault weapons ban. There is no definition, so we believe it's a ban on all semi-automatic rifles. In the Jackson County region, state code is very clear, 21750. The General Assembly alone has the authority to pass laws to govern and regulate firearms. This is a clear and willing violation. The county executive vetoed the measure, warned the county not to do it, They overrode the veto. The problem we have is there's just no penalties in existing statute. This bill gives us civil penalties, so gun owners, our members, can take the county into court for civil damages to make sure the law is no longer violated. Our members could file a lawsuit, but they have to be a test dummy first, and they don't want to have to go through the process of being arrested and being charged with a crime, and frankly, they shouldn't have to. Code is very clear, and we ask this law to be passed to give them more clarity and civil penalties. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in favor of the bill?
Lisa Panett here with Armorvine, and we just want to go on record as supporting the bill.
Sorry, questions for the witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in favor?
Thank you, Chairman. Susan Myers of the 20th, here in support of SB74. I just want to go on record as supporting Missouri's firearm preemption law. All Missourians should enjoy equal protection when it comes to firearms, regardless of where they may happen to reside. This bill seeks to give recourse to citizens who have their rights violated, and I support that. Young men and women, those under 21, have as much right to arm themselves for the purpose of self-defense as any other adult. As a young woman, yes, a long time ago, one day after work, while sitting at a stoplight, I happened to look up in my rearview mirror and found myself grappling with the realization that I was being followed. Turns out, unbeknownst to me, I'd been being stalked for weeks or even months. I'll never know how long it had been going on before the truth smacked me in the face that day. Were the option to conceal carry available to me at that time, you can bet I would have availed myself of it in a heartbeat. And I suppose this experience, remembering that awful physically sick feeling that rushed over me, is part of what drives me today to advocate so unapologetically on behalf of women's carry rights. That younger version of me had just as much right to defend herself as the woman who's sitting here today. It gets pretty real and mean out there sometimes, senators. Often real quick like, despite our best efforts to avoid confrontation. Don't let those ignoring our preemption hamper our ability to take care of ourselves and those we love. Thank you. And I have not gone about compiling the ongoing 18 to 20-year-old cases that are ongoing. We're winning in most of them, but all you have to do is ask, and I will gather that information for the committee.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Anybody else here to testify in favor of Senate Bill 74? Anybody here to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 74?
Mr. Chairman, Shannon Cooper today representing the sad, broken-hearted city of Kansas City today. Just want to go on record in opposition. Some of you didn't watch the game, apparently. Okay. Just go on record in opposition to the bill. This is one of the few tools we have in the Kansas City area to, try and make people more comfortable. And just the fact of the matter is, they have the right to carry conceal. We know that. We did not have anything to do with the Jackson County legislature's decision to do what they did. I think we recognize they probably should not have done that. But we just feel like with the number of visitors we have in our community, the open carry definitely intimidates and makes people nervous. So be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for this witness? I definitely got your joke about Kansas City and feel that.
Go ahead.
Well, no, that's it. I'm with you. Empathy
okay.
Galore. But appreciate your testimony.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else here to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 74?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chairman, for listening to my testimony and members of the committee. So my name is Mary Gross, and I live in St. Louis County. I've been there for 30 years. I am obviously a volunteer with Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America, Missouri Division. I am here today to urge this committee to oppose SB74, which would undermine local control of public safety. In 2023, St. Louis City passed a law preventing open carry of weapons for those not holding a CCW. This was mostly directed toward those under age 19 because of the many teenagers roaming the streets of St. Louis, displaying weapons, provoking other gun-carrying teens, and terrifying other citizens. Violators can now face a $500 fine and up to 30 days in jail. SB74 would prohibit such legislation. Unlike the minors in Stone County and other counties which Senator Hudson covers, St. Louis City teens are not protecting their livestock. They are not hunting. They are not anticipating the slow response from law enforcement. Carrying guns for St. Louis City teens is a big risk and it can result in tragic outcomes. SB74 does no favors for young citizens in an urban setting and, in fact, endangers them and public safety at large. SB74 also interferes with the autonomy of local government leaders, who actually, you mentioned that, who best know all the safety needs for their own area, allows St. Louis City, as well as all political subdivisions, to legislate with the knowledge of what is best for each. Also consider the county where the bill sponsor lives. Stone County has a population density of 70 people per square mile. St. Louis City has a population density of 5,000 people per square mile. Certainly the committee can see the stark differences. Missouri has few foundational gun safety laws. Keep in mind that according to Everytown for Gun Safety, Missouri already has the 4th highest rate of gun deaths in the country. Guns are the leading cause of death for children in Missouri, ages 1 to 19. So I implore this body to recognize that legislation is best written by the people closest to and living in the area for which laws are being written. I beg you to vote against SB 74, which further erodes gun safety laws, does nothing to make us safer, and in fact makes our streets more dangerous.
Any questions for this witness? Thank you for your testimony.
Okay.
Anybody else here to testify in opposition to the bill? Seeing none, anybody here to testify for informational purposes only? Seeing none, that'll conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 74. Any closing thoughts, Senator?
I'd just like to thank you for the time. Appreciate it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Next up, we have Senator Roberts with Senate Bill 125. Hop up when you're ready, Senator.
Good afternoon. I'm Steve Roberts, State Senator from Missouri's 5th District in the city of St. Louis. I'd like to thank the chair and members of this committee for affording me the opportunity to present Senate Bill 125 concerning the Waterways and Trusts Fund. This is a simple bill which provides a small fix to an oversight the Waterways and Ports Trust Fund passed in 2023. That bill provided that land-eligible projects under the fund to be owned or held in a long-term lease by the Missouri Ports Authority. Due to an oddity in the control of the city of St. Louis, the St. Louis Port Authority does not actually own or lease their land, but instead manages the land which is owned by the city of St. Louis. The bill clarifies the language to ensure that the St. Louis Port Authority is included as was originally intended. We've got some folks who are more familiar with it, but I'd be happy to answer any questions if you got them.
Questions for the sponsor? Seeing none, anybody here to testify in favor of the bill? Proceed when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name's Jackie Barget. I'm a registered lobbyist here on behalf of the St. Louis City Port Authority. I think Senator Roberts summed it up pretty well, but this is just a small clerical fix to make sure that St. Louis Port Authority still is an eligible entity to access funds from that Waterways and Ports Trust Fund, as they always have. For those of you that don't sit on appropriations, typically the state appropriates a lump sum of money to all of the ports in the state they rank their little projects, some of them big projects, amongst themselves, and then that's how the money is distributed. Because of this small oversight, St. Louis hasn't been able to access that money last year, so making this little tweak would just set everything back to how everything has worked in the past.
Great. Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in favor?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. John Hensley, registered lobbyist for the Missouri Port Authority Association, the association of all the public ports in the state. Just going on record in support of the bill, as the previous witness and the sponsor have said, it was always intended that the city would be able to partake of the fund, and we hope that with this fix that will finally be possible. Thank you.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in favor?
All right. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Ben Travelers with the Missouri Soybean Association would like to go on record in support of this legislation. Anytime that we can facilitate more commerce on our inland waterways system is good for the agriculture community. And so with that, we appreciate the senator working to make this happen. Be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for testimony. Anybody else here to testify in favor? Seeing none, anybody testify in opposition?
Lisa Panett here with Armorvine. I would argue that it's more than a little bit of a change. The language as it exists right now says that the monies in the fund shall be withdrawn only upon appropriation by the General Assembly to be administered by the State Highways and Transportation Commission and the Department of Transportation. This change will then move that to monies in the fund shall be withdrawn only at the request of a Missouri Port Authority for statutorily permitted port purposes. So this is taking it from the appropriation by the General Assembly to actually the request of the Missouri Port Authority. And we don't believe that that is a good change. Everybody in the General Assembly is elected by the people and they're accountable to the people, where this Missouri Port Authority is, they are appointed. So that is why we are opposed.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Anybody else here to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 125? Seeing none, anybody for informational purposes only? Seeing none, that'll conclude the hearing. Senator, any closing remarks?
Just very briefly. So just to clarify, this was passed in 2023 with Senate Bill 138, and the only thing it does is it includes the city of St. Louis as was originally intended.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. That'll conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 125. Next up, we have Senate Bill 147. Senator Coleman. We'll hold off for Senator Coleman, who's in another hearing at the moment. Hearing on Senate Bill 147. Proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Senator. Mary Elizabeth Coleman, State Senator for Jefferson County, the 22nd District, and I'd like to thank the senators for having me today and for your patience as I came over from one committee to this one. This is a bill that I have filed for many years. It is about making sure that people are able to be safe no matter where they are. It is an omnibus bill in some regards. There's a number of provisions relating to the Second Amendment that are included. And really, one of the things that is the fruit of this, or where this came from, is firsthand experience. I am a smaller person. Sometimes you may not think that I'm a smaller person based on the way that I speak. You'd think that I'd have a little bit more comfort level than I do. But it's about making sure that no matter where I am, that I'm on equal footing and that I'm able to be safe, that those members of the public who have a Second Amendment right to protect themselves are able to exercise that, and that they have an ability to defend themselves, not just physically, but legally as well, if they exercise that constitutional right. There are a number of provisions, and I'm happy to walk through all of those if the senators would like me to, but in the interest of time and because I'm supposed to be running another committee next door, I'm going to stop from delving into each and every provision of this bill, but happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Would you mind just really quickly, just very top level, just like through the summary, here's what's added in the bill, just for the committee's edification? I appreciate
Absolutely.
that.
Happy to do so, Mr. Chairman. So as I said, this is a bill that I have filed for a number of years. The first one is going to be dealing with Chapter 290, in particular Section 148, saying that an employee is able to own or to be able to possess a firearm in their vehicle. Being able to have a safe place to leave your firearm on your way to work. Make sure that then when you're exercising your ability to carry outside of your employment is safe. This is not saying that employers have to allow you to have your firearm inside of their employment, but at least I'm able to maintain and keep that safe in my vehicle. It is going to create a presumption of reasonableness under Section 563.031. Under current law, you're able to use deadly force against a person who's going to unlawfully enter or attempt to enter my dwelling, my residence, my vehicle. And this adds to this that you can use your deadly force to protect yourself if somebody enters your place of employment, a retail establishment, or another place of business where someone legally has the right to be. Unfortunately, criminals don't discriminate against where they're committing crimes, and this is making sure we're not discriminating against law-abiding citizens where they're able to use and protect themselves and those around them. It also says that there shall be a presumption of reasonableness, that if somebody is, again, kind of going back up, under current law, a defendant has the burden to prove that he or she reasonably believed that they were at risk for physical or deadly force was necessary to protect themselves or a third person. This is also saying that there's a presumption of reasonableness that that defendant believed such force was necessary to defend themselves or others. There's a number of provisions regarding immunity from liability. Again, this is not new language that has been filed in the General Assembly, although or as a package, but this is going to provide that a person who uses or threatens to use force in self-defense is immune from criminal prosecution and civil action for that force unless it was against a law enforcement officer who was acting in performance of his or her duties, and the person reasonably knew or should have known that the person was a law enforcement officer. Also, law enforcement agency can use standard procedures for investigating the use of threatened use of force, but the agency can't arrest somebody for using or threatening to use force unless the agency determines there's probable cause that the force that was used was unlawful. It further provides that a defendant can raise a claim of self-defense during a pretrial hearing in either civil or criminal cases where the shift of burden on the party seeking to overcome that immunity by proof of clear and convincing evidence. The reason that's important is because we want to make sure that we're taking off of the table and solving that kind of threshold issue at the very beginning. This bill will also repeal provisions relating to civil remedies that are unaffected by criminal provisions of the self-defense law. There's some federal and state firearm laws language that's included. Again, Mr. Chairman, I'm just wrapping up page 1, and I've got 3 more almost full pages of provisions that are in this. So hang with me.
I want to ask that. I was like, all right, well, she can kind of cover some of the summary, and it's a long summary. So
No, I mean, really, truly, this is the provisions.
It's a big bill.
It's a very large bill, and having served for almost 7 years, this starting our 7th year, or my 7th year in the legislature, we have heard so many gun bills over and over again, and this is the what the state law would be according to Mary Elizabeth Coleman. And so rather than filing 18 different bills with provisions that are going to address a variety of different things, all under making sure that our Second Amendment is protected, that people have the right to defend themselves, and that we are not shifting a burden unnecessarily to law-abiding citizens in favor of protecting criminals, but protecting law-abiding citizens. So do you want me to keep going?
Well, let's see with the committee if they have questions for you. Does anybody on the committee have questions? Okay, well, let's go to testimony for and against.
Thank you.
And if the committee has some stuff pop up, we'll do a ender question session for you. Anybody here in favor of this bill? Again, just a reminder, please fill out a witness form for our records. Proceed when you're ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the committee. Susan Myers of the 20th, here in support of SB147. Removing dangerous and deadly gun-free zones from Missouri statute continues to be the top priority for women of the state who carry for self-defense. We take it personally when the state abuses its authority to tell us when and where we can or can't be prepared to protect ourselves and our families. When I saw the sponsor bring this bill with her from the House to the Senate, I was thrilled, because it has long been my belief that it is going to be women stepping up and speaking out on this topic that will finally, once and for all, shatter the public safety illusion that is gun-free zones. So Women for Gun Rights of Missouri reached out to her office with some additions we hope to see added, such as the section pertaining to possession of firearm by an employee. This is an issue several of our ladies deal with. We get it's a private property versus private property situation, which is tricky, but it's causing women to be disarmed every day, even when they're off the clock. Another ask we had was to remove the Class D felony as penalty for carrying on public transit buses. Those who ride buses will likely be the ones least able to afford a permit. A woman who wants a means to protect herself shouldn't risk completely losing her right to own firearms because she becomes a felon for riding a bus, for simply exercising a constitutionally protected right. Also, women often find themselves with an urgent and immediate need for protection and don't have time for the permitting process to play out before readying herself to become her own first responder. And of course, we would like to see public transit trains added to the language. Some may not like the shrinkage of the restricted location list for permitless carry, arguing that this will allow criminals to carry in more locations. It must be pointed out that criminals are already carrying illegally in those same locations. If the risk of a Class D felony for carrying on a bus doesn't dissuade them, how can anyone honestly argue that a no guns sign would in any way be a deterrent? You don't take away the right for all simply because some will decide to do bad things. That's not how rights work. I support the other sections of the bill as well, but wanted to use my time to shed light on the lie that is gun-free zones. What they really are is self-defense-free zones or vulnerable victim zones, pretending they offer any actual safety by mandating vulnerability needs to be called out as clearly false, blatantly dangerous, and be persistently pushed back against until they are removed. I ask you to pull the plug and rid our state of them so that those of us who've made the decision to take responsibility for our own safety are no longer disarmed and left at a disadvantage in the hollow name of safety. Thank you.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none. Thank you for your testimony. Anybody else here to testify in favor of the bill? Seeing none, anybody here to testify in opposition to the bill? Proceed when you're ready.
My name is Matt Moore. I'm a captain with the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office.
As part of my responsibilities, I'm a law enforcement commander, and I was previously in charge of our detective bureau. I'm here to testify in opposition to this bill, specifically the portion where it speaks to limiting the authority of the police to detain people who have employed deadly force. Specifically, whenever deadly force is used, whether it's by law enforcement, private citizens, or other parties, it's critical that officers have the ability to fully investigate the circumstances. Immediate detention does not equate to an assumption of guilt. Rather, it's a necessary step in preserving evidence, ensuring public safety, and determining the facts. Prohibiting detention could allow individuals who engaged in a criminal violence to evade justice simply by claiming self-defense. That's all I got.
Okay. Thank you for your testimony. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none.
Thank you.
Anybody else here to testify in opposition to the bill?
Good afternoon, Chairman, Senators. Thank you. Park Stevens on behalf of Missouri Association of Prosecuting Attorneys here to oppose certain parts of this bill, namely the part where it creates a new statute under 563-085, which is offering immunity to individuals. Ladies and gentlemen, what is important here is it changes it to a prima facie showing, as this bill says, which means a person could kill another, say self-defense, and the law enforcement can't investigate it. They're off the hook. They're protected by it. It provides them immunity. Prima facie is just that, just merely saying it. There's not a reasonable doubt standard. There's not a probable cause. It reduces it to any level, which is why we as an association oppose it. Ladies and gentlemen, I grew up a young person carrying guns, joined the military at 17 years old, deployed multiple times overseas right away. I'm a farmer. I have 3 daughters. I'm a very pro Second Amendment. Missouri Association of Prosecuting Attorneys are pro Second Amendment. We uphold the law. But this law will upend scores and scores of years of precedent in the Missouri courts, and let law enforcement agencies understand how to utilize when it comes to this by changing it, by just saying, all you have to do is say, someone threatened me, and now I can kill them. This is not the state or the method to make murder legal or allow that to it. There is already in place methods to use self-defense. That's been in place for quite a while. A statute that I know very well because I've dealt with cases where I've had to call family and say that was a lawful killing. This person did X in their home. They pulled a gun on them. When that person entering their home had a knife and they killed them. I had to tell families that. I'm sorry, your son was committing a crime and I'm not going to prosecute him. The person who shot him and killed him, I'm not going to prosecute him. But ladies and gentlemen, make no mistakes. I currently even have 2 cases right now where people have claimed that, and then law enforcement paused, said, you know what, we're going to let this play out, got a Ring camera off a door and found it completely live, pulled it back in there, and he said, nope, self-defense, he had a gun. And the video evidence proved conclusively otherwise, and he's in jail to this day. That is the problem with changing this completely around. Right now, it changes. Furthermore, as you follow in on this, we don't want to allow people to carte blanche kill someone and just say, hey, I'm immune because a prima facie showing. It needs to be above that. And for those reasons, the Missouri Association of Prosecuting Attorneys opposes this bill as drafted, and at least specifically pursuant to that section of the immunity statute or the reasonableness under 563, proposed 563-085.
Questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Anybody else here to testify in opposition? Proceed when you're ready.
Good afternoon. Sharon Galway-Jones here today on behalf of the Missouri State Conference of the NAACP. We are living in a time where we are seeing black and brown folks shot regularly while just going on about their business. I recall to everyone's mind Ralph Yarl, who accidentally knocked on the wrong door while trying to pick up his little sister and was shot through the door. I also call to everyone's mind an Amazon driver who was just trying to turn around on a rural road in Lawrence County just, I believe, last week, and was also shot while going about their business. These are scary times for folks, and we would ask that we not make them scarier by preventing law enforcement and prosecutors from doing even a most basic investigation to determine if the shooting was in fact a justified legitimate shooting, or if we have another example where someone was tragically shot because of the atmosphere that we are living in now. And with that, we'd ask for you to remove that section of the bill.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Anybody else here to testify in opposition?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Jared Hankinson, speaking on behalf of the Missouri Chamber of Commerce, here to speak specifically against two provisions within the bill, Section 290.148 and Section 571.069. The Missouri Chamber believes that these provisions go against the Missouri tradition of creating a friendly regulatory environment that supports free enterprise here in the state of Missouri. The Chamber believes that we must let businesses decide when it comes to internal personnel and operational policies. And we believe that these particular provisions are a shift away from that foundational support from free enterprise that has made Missouri such a competitive state for new projects and a state that holds a reputation as being business friendly. The Section 290.148 that relates to possessions of firearms by an employee, we believe that this provision goes against the principle of free enterprise by inviting the government into the internal policy and employment practices of private businesses. And our core question is essentially this: if government mandates policy on businesses today, what precedent are we setting for other workplace policy mandates in the future? And we would like to avoid those discussions. On the business liability, Section 571.069, again, the Chamber believes that this goes against the principles of free enterprise by inviting the heavy hand of government influence into policy decisions, but also creates an unsustainable liability path for businesses that may prevent private entities from maintaining their best practices and deter continuity of operations in Missouri. Would like to point out that shifting liability onto business undermines Missouri's competitive advantage in not only attracting businesses to the state of Missouri, but keeping businesses here in the state of Missouri, and would also like to bring attention to some of the potential downstream effects that businesses may be forced from the decisions that businesses may be forced to make under this provision. In order to avoid liability, we may see businesses shift to a full work from home model. And in our urban cores of St. Louis and Kansas City, we have plenty of small businesses, some of which are also members of the Chamber, that do very much rely on the traffic from the workforce of some of these employers in these regions that might be forced to make that shift. So those are the reasons we're here to testify in support, again, just on those two particular provisions, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Seeing none.
Thank you very
for
much.
testimony. Anybody else here to testify in opposition? Seeing none. Anybody here to testify for informational purposes only?
Thank you. Senator, there's one more section that for information purposes only. It's under.
Is this with the Prosecutors Association?
Yes, it is. Sorry, Park Stevens for Missouri Association of Prosecuting Attorneys. It's 571-215. In that, it's a piece about takes, just for the Senator's awareness, the subdivision contracts where certain jails contract with the federal government, with the Bureau of Prisons, and therefore you can't have firearms in those jailers, those local sheriffs that do that, they get money that helps offset the cost of those jails. If you remove that firearm provision, Pierce, and let anyone bring those firearms, there's a possibility those jailers will lose those contracts. The sheriffs will lose that contract. And that's a significant amount of money in some of these jails that hold federal inmates before they get transferred to the actual Bureau of Prisons. And so that's a consideration that Missouri Association of Prosecuting Attorneys wishes this committee to understand and know about.
Okay.
So.
Anything in there that you want to support? We can put you on all three of the
Unfortunately,
pieces
no.
of it.
Nope, those are the two that we were put on.
I'm
Yep.
just kidding. I'm sorry.
No, Senator, I
know
understand.
myself.
Thank you.
Any questions for the witness? Second time around. Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else here for information purposes only? Seeing none, that'll conclude the hearing. Any ending questions for the sponsor? Mentioned that earlier. Seeing none. Any closing remarks, Senator?
Thank you, Chairman, for hearing the bill.
Thank you, Senator. That'll conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 147. I will make a motion that we adjourn. Do I have a second? Having a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Guys.